It's Thursday, June 29th, 2017. I'm your host, Sarah Mantle. We have a great show in store for you today. First, we'll get an update on the state budget with Representative Will Crocker. Then we'll travel to Craigville Beach to check out the recent renovations made to the bathhouse. And finally, we'll check in with Town Manager Mark Ells. He's going to talk a little bit about a $3 million settlement with the county. All of that on this episode of Barnstable Today. But first, let's go ahead and get a look at today's top headlines. The Cape Flyer will provide extra service over the 4th of July weekend. This Friday, the train will leave South Station at 5:50 p.m. and will make stops in Braintree, Brockton, Middleborough, Wareham, and Buzzards Bay. Saturday through Tuesday, the 4th, the Cape Flyer will depart from South Station at 8 a.m. To learn more about the extra routes, you can visit capecodrta.org. And with the 4th of July just around the corner, you can mark your calendars for the fireworks display that will be shot off a barge in Lewis Bay around 9 p.m. Come enjoy the patriotic night with your family and friends. You can have great viewing spots at Owslton Park, Bismore Park, and Veterans Park Beach. You should be aware that there will be a parking ban on South Street from 5 p.m. to midnight. There will also be available parking in North Street, parking lots, and Town Hall. For a full list of 4th of July activities like parades and such, you can visit the Town of Barnstable's website. And many residents are going to plan on heading to Sandy Neck over the busy 4th of July weekend. The off-road vehicle beach is currently open to Trail 2 for a total of 1.4 miles. The speed limit there is 5 miles per hour, and don't forget to park with your headlights facing the dunes. Campers may park either with their headlights facing the dunes or the taillights facing the dunes. Sandy Neck staff just asked those with campers who park with the taillights to the dunes to put their hang tags in the rear window of the camper for easy viewing. You can visit sandyneckbeachpark.com for more information. And if you haven't yet, you can still get that beach parking permit at the Hyannis Youth and Community Center. Definitely going to need that before the busy 4th of July weekend. Beach parking permits can be purchased from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Saturday and 9 a.m. to noon on Sundays and holidays. Beach parking permits cost $40 for residents. Up next, we'll chat with State Representative Will Crocker. Will, thank you so much for stopping by the studio today. Really appreciate the chance to chat with you. I know you guys are hard at work on Beacon Hill with budget issues. Where are we in the budget process?
Well, we're kind of basically right now, Sarah, in a state of flux. We're still trying to figure out just exactly, we're waiting for the conference committee back to find out what their recommendations are, and then we're going to we'll deliberate on that and vote on that. In the meantime, if we don't get all of this completed, we have in place what's called a 1/12 budget. We'll take, because the fiscal year ends at the end of June and July 1st, which is Saturday, starts a new fiscal year, we have to, by Constitution, have a budget in place. The 1/12 means that we will have enough money appropriated for the month of July, or basically 1/12 of the year, and then it gives us a little bit of time to be able to work out the details from and hear what the conference committee has to say and deliberate on that and vote on it.
Yeah, time-consuming process, and sometimes it just hits down to the wire like that. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, and glad to hear that there's a measure that allows you guys to have a little more time if you need it.
All right, by law, by the Constitution, we have to have a budget of some sort in place come July 1st. At the end of the fiscal year is June 30th. July 1st is the new fiscal year, and if we don't have any budget in place at any time, we have no money to spend.
Right. Very important things. I want to talk to you too. I know recently here at Town Hall, I think it was this joint committee held a hearing here in the Town Hall hearing room about a proposal that would tax things like Airbnb, home rentals, that maybe weren't, they didn't have to pay that tax. They don't have to at this point. So they're considering a proposal that would require those homes that are rented to be taxed as hotels and motels are. Have you heard from constituents on this issue?
Heard a lot from constituents, and most of the people that I hear from say to vote against it. So I'm taking all of these things in deliberations. I want to see, I hear what my constituents have to say. I want to see what the proposal is, to be able to deliberate on that, think about it, and come up with a decision that's based on what I think is fair for the people in the 2nd Barnstable District.
Yeah, and interesting too, where it is now, just sort of at the hearing stage. This really hasn't come. Is it looking like there's going to be a vote anytime in the near future?
I think we'll have something. I could be wrong, but I think we probably will have something come up this summer anyway. I think it may be on a little bit on the back burner, but the heat is on underneath of it. I think there's feeling up there that we're going to do something about it.
You know, my question to you is, do you think you're hearing maybe a different take on things than other representatives in other parts of the state, just because we have such a tourism base here in our economy? Do you think you might be hearing a different message than, say, other areas of the state?
I know other state representatives have different thinkings on this, and that could very well be the case, because we are a tourist-driven economy. But one of the things I think that is common about it is that people are using their houses for an Airbnb just to make ends meet. Maybe they need to rent out their house to maybe pay for a kid's college tuition or something like that, or just to make ends meet. So I think that there are commonalities here. There are, you could see that in any part of the state. But one of the driving factors down here, of course, is tourism, and people come here to visit in the summertime, and people who own houses take advantage of that.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of people maybe who own boats who will go live on their boat for a week and rent their house out just to get that extra income. So it's an interesting discussion. Have they decided where that money would go if they did enact a tax on these Airbnb type rentals?
There are a number of proposals going around. I know some of them have to do with infrastructure and specifically sewers, and which would be very beneficial down here in the Cape. Obviously, we have a major problem here with wastewater issue, and towns need to be able to start long since past starting to deal with that situation.
Yeah, such an interesting issue. Definitely will be interesting to see that as it progresses. Thank you so much for joining us today, filling us in on everything that's happening on Beacon Hill, from the budget to different legislative measures. We really appreciate it.
Appreciate the time. Thank you.
Our guest today, State Representative Will Crocker. Now let's take a trip to Craigville Beach to check out the recent renovations to the bathhouse. So excited to be here with you at Craigville Beach, Patty. It's summertime, and there were recently some really great renovations made to the Craigville Beach bathhouse. Tell me about the renovations.
Well, so far we've done 2 phases. The first phase being the exterior. Last year they redid the exterior of the bathhouse and painted and got it up, and redid the roof, and we also put on the cupola that was here forever, and it's all lighted, and it's beautiful. It just adds a lot of class, and it's capey looking. And then this year we did massive renovations inside to the restrooms and the changing rooms. Now these are dramatic changes. From the exterior, you don't have any idea that the changes happened. And the entrance is now on the west gate side, on the west side of the beach. There is no longer an entrance on the east side. So when you come to the beach, if you're parked down near the CBA beach, you got to go all the way around the bathhouse to get to the bathroom. So that's the only change. The third phase, a couple of things will happen in the third phase. We'll be getting changing rooms that'll be on the exterior part of the facility. And then we're also working towards getting a tight tank, which for our septic system. So it'll be a much more green facility.
And walking through the bathhouse today, it seems like there's so much more room for lifeguard training, group meetings, and I noticed too the first aid room. So these are all really important changes. Right,
and everything that happened outside of the bathrooms was actually a gift from DPW, and they've maneuvered some of their funds around, but they were able to do it in-house. We didn't go out of house to do the projects that they accomplished, such as the storage room, which is the old ladies' room. So we're able to actually move our gear in and out of the building now without it banging on doors. So we'll have longer longevity with all of our equipment because of the way. When the building was built, there were no lifeguard. There were no rescue boards in any facility. That's not what was utilized for rescues. A boat was actually, and the boats used to be tied to the lifeguard tower, so they never were brought into a facility. So with this, we've updated the actual use of the building, but also saved and updated so that we could use our equipment, our safety equipment that is now. We never used to have Moby chairs on the beach. You know, those weren't here in the 20s. We didn't have handicap accessible. I don't even think anything was handicap accessible back then. But now we have handicap bathrooms, handicap accessible, chairs to get out on the beach. So, we've really changed things, and the whole operation's changed.
Yeah, it makes it much more efficient, updates it to the current standard, because like you said, when was this building built?
Well, the first building was built in the 20s, but that blew down with a hurricane, and they just redid it and added a little more a facility for the lifeguards, because the lifeguards changing room used to be over what is now the lifeguard training room. And when we go inside, you'll be able to see the names that are from the way back when.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool.
So have the staff, I don't know if they've gotten started yet, but have they commented on some of the renovations this year?
Oh, well, they love the fact that they feel like they're in a clean environment. It's not that it was dirty, it was just so old. And, even the painting, it was really challenging. The DPW would come in and they'd paint, but there was so much paint that they actually needed to take all the paint off, which now they've done most of that to the facility. And they put beadboard, they took the beadboard and used it. The changing rooms used to be all beadboard. So they saved all that beadboard and they used it in the rest of the facility. So it's not like anything went to waste. They used as much of the old building, but updated it with it.
So cool. Love it. And I love to keep that character, and it feels like the same building, but it's very different. And you mentioned handicap access. There's a great handicap ramp
Yes.
by the front door. That's great to have.
Right, yeah. And they can get in and out of the building, no problem now. Also, they changed the showers. The showers used to be affixed, and they are still at most of our buildings. They're affixed to the bathhouse. And then the pull kind, and what happens is those stay on, so we were wasting water. So now we have a big pole. We accommodate more people on this pole, and they shut off. It's not like we got the water running all the time, and especially when we're not here. At night, somebody goes in, takes a shower, and then the water stays on. So now we don't have that happening. So it's all in all, it's just a great change.
And on top of that, this lovely shade structure behind us was donated this year by the Glenn Fund for Hope. What a wonderful addition to the beach.
Yeah, so it makes everything seem brand new, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole new beach here at Craigville. I think that visitors and residents are both going to really appreciate the renovations and additions here at Craigville Beach.
I agree. I totally agree. We're so lucky. I mean, if we had replaced the entire bathhouse, we would have spent a lot more money. It was $480,000, which sounds like a lot, which I know is a lot. I couldn't afford it for me, but if we had gone and torn this down and rebuilt, it would have been millions of dollars, and we would have had to go up 17 feet. The character would be gone from the facility.
Right, absolutely. Well, congratulations. It looks fantastic. We're so happy for you, and wish you a very successful season here at Craigville.
Thank you.
Thanks,
the
Patty.
whole town benefits.
That's right. So Mark, thank you so much for joining us live this morning. We really appreciate it. I want to talk to you a little bit about a settlement with Barnstable County. This is, of course, stemming from a contamination of the Hyannis water system from chemicals that were used at the Barnstable County Fire and Rescue Training Academy. Can you talk to me a little bit about the settlement?
Sure. Well, it stemmed from us filing a lawsuit against the county relevant to contamination at the Mary Dunn well field from the Fire Training Academy and the use of fire foams that contain the contaminants that were identified in our public well fields. And then there was a EPA advisory that came out that dropped the level at which those could be identified, certainly within the well field, and precipitated us moving forward with having to put filters on the wells at the Mary Dunn well field.
And when you talk about carbon filtration systems, it's not as easy or cheap as it sounds when you say a filter, because a carbon
it's not like screwing one onto your faucet. No, these are massive structures. When used year-round, they need to be in a temperature-controlled, environmentally controlled building, and they need to be monitored. What comes in, what happens inside, what goes out, and when you begin to see any bleed through of the contaminant that you're removing, you replace the media or the material in the filter. You do them in series so that if any comes through, when it goes into the next one catches it. So basically, you don't have this going back into your system. So it's a fairly complex process to monitor, sample, and operate. Certainly not an inexpensive one to do. I want to say we incurred costs of upwards of $170,000 to date. It's part of the settlement. They're going to retroactively reimburse us for those expenses. We incurred the capital cost of the filters and the structures around the filters. That's the borrow amount, the $2.95 million that they're talking about. And then moving forward, the estimated annual cost, because we've been running this for more than a year, that's why we have the 170, is estimated to be under $125,000 a year, not including the filter media that's in these filters. So what we did was we said 125 cap, but we'll submit actual bills up to 125, and then every 2 years we'll adjust the 125 up by 3%. And then on the filter side, we estimate 2 filters per year. We have 3 wells, 2 filters per well, so 6 wells in all. So this gets a little complicated, but the way this will work is we estimate 2 per year. So at $35,000 per filter to replace the media. So that's $70,000. So what the county will do is establish basically an escrow account where they will hold that money annually up to $210,000. And we will, as we incur the expense annually, only up to 2 filters per year though, we will debit that account with that expense. And so basically, on average, we'll get back our money from the filter replacement costs. So at the end of the day, this translates to we were projecting that we would need double-digit rate increases if we were going to bear this solely within the water rates. And so we were looking at about 13% increase potentially next year. This brings us down over 6%. So we're back down into the range where we've been ever since we acquired the water company. So that's, it's not good news that we had this challenge. It's good news that we're going to manage the cost increases, and now we can refocus on being able to use our resources towards managing this 100-year-old system, which needs to be done.
And reading an article that was in the Cape Cod Times this morning, I read as part of the negotiation process, they have allowed us to look at, say, property off of 6A that they own for possible well sites. So that's another way they've tried to work with us.
We did it in a separate letter. And yeah, I would say moving forward, we'll have a good working relationship with the county, even when it's difficult issues, whether it's this issue or any other. We've really, I think, going through this process and choosing to try to sit down and communicate and come to a settlement outside of the legal system, so to speak, even though this is part of the legal system. It's like alternative dispute resolution, but not going through a court system where everybody positions against each other. I think we've developed an even we didn't have a bad relationship to begin with. We've developed a stronger relationship, and I think you'll see us work that way in the future, so that's a good thing.
That is great news. Glad to hear that, and I was actually going to mention something about how quickly this was resolved out of court, which
well,
is
I
great.
got to applaud our leadership here in town, town council, town leadership. Absolutely, we kept them understanding of what was occurring, and they were supportive of us going into this process. The county commissioners and Commissioner Kukunis stepped right up and really took a very similar approach and said none of us benefit, number one, by not having good communications or coordinations, and number two, we don't believe that this will resolve itself in a timely or appropriate manner. We should sit down, we should figure out what's fair, and we should do it. And I thank everybody for being supportive.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for dropping by today, talking to us about this settlement. We really appreciate it, and I think you're right. The county and the town of Barnstable will continue to move forward with a great working relationship.
Yes, we will.
Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Mark.
Sarah.
We really appreciate it. Our guest today, of course, Town Manager Mark Ells. Now let's find out what's happening around town in today's community calendar. For those of you that experience anxiety and stress, there will be a free clinic scheduled for July 1st that focuses on methods of stress reduction. That will be held at Freedom Hall in Gatuit from 9 to 11:30. In addition, there will be a second clinic for sleep and stress that will be held from 1 to 3:30. The clinic will explore the connections and give concrete practices to assist in getting a better night's sleep. And the all-female a cappella group Cape Harmony will be performing in Barnstable throughout the summer. The group will perform every Monday evening at the Federated Church of Hyannis at 7:30 and on Wednesday evenings at the Federated Church in Katuitt at 7:30. For more information, you can visit capeharmony.org. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. We're going to be back tomorrow with another great show for you. On tomorrow's show, we'll get to hear Cape Harmony perform during our arts and culture segment, and let me tell you, what a special treat to hear them. Assistant Recreation Director John Gleason is going to tell us everything we need to know about going to the beach during this very busy 4th of July weekend, and we'll have so much more. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Mannel.